The question was, would anyone detect that we were sane? The answer was, no. No one ever did.
We must reform our mental health laws to better identify mentally disturbed individuals who may commit acts of violence and make sure those people not only get treatment, but when necessary, involuntary confinement.
So diagnosis is a weapon, a tool people use against one another, especially when there is some kind of power conflict present.
Hello, today is October 24th, 2020, and the time is 1:11 p.m. This video is definitely going to be a woo-woo video, and it ties into my previous few videos where I talk about dream states, interpretation, and vetting, and and all this other stuff. And as I stated in a previous video, most of my, as a descriptive, spiritual woo-woo events in my life, throughout my life, have nothing to do with being asleep or dreaming or anything else. And I also am very clear that, I never stated or implied that these types of things don't happen during these states, say, of sleep and dreaming. They're very rare. And I actually had a commenter on that particular video, a long comment, but very well written, talking about these types of events being rare and how to distinguish between it just being a dream to something more. Now, that actually, where my first example of two are going to ties into that. And then also, by no design of mine, reference to music is going to be part of this video. And I do mention in other videos about who gave human beings song, music, singing. In the beginning of one of my videos, I can't remember, but it was one of my recent ones and so my first example is actually going to be kind of incorporating all that. And so yeah, I'm just going to get into the backstory of this first example, and then I'll let you listen to the audio. And I'll start with, before the event with that particular audio, there's a thing called EVPs, electric voice phenomenon. And it also includes different kinds of noises and stuff like that. And it was around this time where this particular recording had really caught my attention. I had a auto recorder set throughout the nights that I was sleeping, and I did record things. And one of the things, I'm just going to pause here for a moment. One of the things when people say they hear things, one of the questions that I ask is, do you hear it in your head or do you hear it in your ears? And what I mean by hearing it in your ears, do you feel the vibration, like the sound? I don't know if anyone's ever been exposed to like a loud sound all of a sudden, and your eardrums, you could feel them like vibrating, and you could feel the muscles in your ears. And that's what I mean by feeling it. Hearing it in your ears, feeling it in your ears, as opposed to just in your head. Now, I'm not dismissing just hearing it in your head. I mean, there's an issue, though, with people hearing stuff in their head that's like just, non-existent. But, that's a different tangent. So I was doing these auto recordings, and I would spend, so if I recorded for 6-7 hours, I would sit and listen 6-7 hours of recording. And that's how I spent my time, because I was trying to understand something, and something more personal. But so this particular day with this event I'm about to share, I was on a Saturday or something, and I just I spent the whole day. I didn't eat anything. I just kind of got caught up with, you know, listening, and then sometimes I'd you know, back up and listen to things over, and you know, just it was very time consuming, and I hadn't gone through the whole audio. And so what happened was, I know it was just 2010, so 10 years ago, and it was wintertime. And I remember it was wintertime because somebody had knocked on my door, and it was a blizzard. It was bad weather. Snow was like, you know, 50 feet high. Well, obviously I'm exaggerating. It was just coming down. They were kind of snowed in. I don't know if they couldn't start their vehicle as well or whatever. But anyway, long story short, rather than them take a cab, you know, I ended up taking them to their work, maybe about, I'm gonna guess 10 minutes away. And so rather than give me, you know, gas money or whatever else, where they worked, they had food. So they said, you want something to eat? So I ended up just getting some sort of sandwich combo thing, and I said, okay, you know, I hadn't eaten all day, and I think I had mentioned that. That's why they asked about food, whatever. So I dropped them off. So let's say it's a 10-minute ride, you know, say 10 minutes to chow down and then head back. So maybe about half an hour, a bit more with the weather and everything else. And so when they had knocked on my door, I was listening to the audios, and, you know, I had paused it, and this particular device that I was using, I was able to secure. So there was no way of anyone tampering with it. So when I got back, got to my desk, and proceeded listening to it. And I was actually on the, I think, yeah, it was towards the end, and I had a whole series of these recordings on this particular recorder. And so it was the last one, so I just opened up the last file. I remembered, I made note, you know, where I was, where I left off. And so I just hit the last file and started playing it. And then I realized, well, what's this recording? And this recording had recorded it by itself while I was away. And I know for a lot of people, it's going to be think, oh, that's crazy. I don't really care. I'm telling you the backstory, and I'm going to, for whatever it's worth. So I listened to the audio, and I was floored. So I call the audio the 202 audio recording. It's 2 minutes, 2 seconds long. And in the beginning, the first, as I said, as a descriptive, I broke it down into 3 parts. There's the breath, there's the void, and then there's the tune. And this is where the music part comes in. And I listened to it, and I listened to it, and I shared it with, I think maybe even a couple of friends, but one friend in particular who's very, they have their own kind of experiences. And what I ended up doing was, there was an online forum that I shared a post with talking about this. And originally I just put the audio, like the whole audio by itself on YouTube in a video, but nothing else, just the audio. And so there were people in this forum who, you know, they specialized in audio, and they had all this equipment and everything else. So they wanted the original file. So I made the original file downloadable, and they were, I think maybe it was like 3 or 4 days later, they came back in that forum and were kind of, you know, I was really expecting, hoping for some logical explanation of even capturing some radio waves or something, like, who knows. But they came back, and apparently with I understand what they were saying with all these different decibels and all this stuff. By no means am I an expert on this. They came back and said the range, where these sounds originated, were outside of like human spectrum or something like that, and they couldn't figure out the void part, because you can definitely hear something going on, and they weren't, you could hear it, but it wasn't even registering. They couldn't figure out, it was all anomalies. And then the tune part was just like, okay, this is even weirder. So that's the last part. So the breath part, I think, lasts, I don't know, 4 or 5 seconds, and then the tune part lasts another 4 or 5 seconds. But the void part is what, and everyone in the forum was like, this is crazy. There's something about this. So they posted their, they took screenshots of their analysis. Like, they had different, not, you know how you have the little bar things and stuff, but this, they were just showing, you know, their analysis, and they explained the whole thing. They got a little bit technical, you know, beyond my pay grade, but I kind of understood what they were saying, that this is not naturally made. So yeah, and then what I ended up doing after that was I did a video which I had online for some time, taken it down a long time ago, and I incorporated in their video their screenshots of their analysis on the 3 different segments. And that video, I didn't talk. It was the story that I just shared with you verbally, it was all text, so it was all just reading. So I'm gonna take all that out and just show the audio parts and the screenshots that they shared. Now, to really hear this, you're gonna need a headset. Now, the first part, what's called the breath, you can hear it. You don't need a headset. And definitely with the third part, the tune, it's actually really loud, and you don't need a headset. The void part, though, you'll need a headset and turn up the volume. You can hear there's some sort of gibberish talking or something going on. And because it was an online forum, there was people all around the world, like, speaking different languages, and I know different languages, and nobody could figure out what was being said. So with that said, I'm going to let you listen to the audio, and if you do have headphones on, and you do crank up the volume, be mindful, like, the breath is not, it won't rupture your eardrums, but be mindful when you get towards the end, because the tune part is really loud. So make what you will of the audio. If you heard something in the void part, I mean, people who had listened to it way back, everyone kind of heard something different, but definitely there's something going on there. And it is what it is. Now, when it comes to dream states, the EVPs that I was picking up during my sleep, as I said, I was picking up different things. And I'm not going to get too much into that, and I have to go back, try to find my old notes and stuff like that about about that. But it was really intense for that period of time back in 2010. Now, there's the first example that I want to share. I wasn't even there, but it ties in with EVPs and what I was doing, trying to capture while I was sleeping. And a lot of people, I've suggested to people who have experiences during their sleep to set up, to hide. And that's what I was doing with the audio. I was hiding it, and that's when I was picking stuff up. But yeah, if you're having these kind of experiences while you're sleeping, then set up an audio and see what you capture. And, that's all I can suggest. And perhaps you're going to get some evidence. Now, the second example. The second example that I'm going to share, it may even encompass another topic that may even lose people. And I have shared in other videos with woowoo stuff, for example. I think about half a dozen different screenshots of different things in the sky and the ground and everything else. And two of these things, screenshots, one, there was a footprint that just completely dwarfed mine, and something that I captured on video as I was bringing my video camera back in. It captured it in the driver's side mirror as I was bringing the camera back in. Now, that was 2017. Now I'm going to go back to, it was either October 31st, 2014. I want to say 15, but I think it was 2014 anyway, years ago. And it has to do with, I was out in the bush by myself, and I'm just going to tell you the whole backstory and then kind of lead into what this next audio that I'm going to share. Just trying to think of where to start with this. So I was wrapping it up for the evening and hunker down in the driver's seat, and there was snow on the ground. It wasn't like excessively cold, but and it was a clear night. I remember the stars were, if you haven't been out in the wilderness looking up at this clear sky, you can't look, and there's like a million stars within each inch, right? So I was laying back, just kind of in thought, and it was during this time I was dealing with this, it turned out to be over a 7-year nightmare. So I was just kind of thinking about that, a little bit stressed out, but it was relaxing, just kind of being out there. And then I heard this gibberish talking. I wasn't asleep. I remember I had my eyes almost closed, and I heard this. It was behind. It started off behind me in my vehicle. The passenger side, and then it seemed to have kind of moved to behind the driver's side. And my first thought was, somebody's out here, but I didn't see any other headlights. I was too far in for anyone just to kind of walk up. But even if they did, there was no flashlights or nothing, because as soon as I heard this, I'm thinking someone's messing around, or they're going to mess around with me. So I, you know, I was on alert. So I had the seat back, so I'm just kind of like half sitting, half laying, listening. And I know they were talking, but I just couldn't understand the language. Now, a lot of people who follow anything to do with Sasquatch, Bigfoot, or anything else, there's what's called the samurai chatter type of thing, and there's vocalizations and stuff. Definitely there was, it wasn't loud, but it was loud enough that I could hear. Low, slow tone. But I wasn't even thinking about, I was just thinking somebody's out here. And so I hit all my lights on, nothing. And, you know, maybe about 5 minutes later or something, I'm like, okay, you know, maybe I scared them off, or who knows, right? But anyway, I ended up, and I had the, I'd put on my audio recorder, and I hit it. And I thought, okay, well, if anything is going to happen, at least going to be an audio of the event. And I had my camcorder with me too, but in case I dozed off, if somebody was messing around, at least I'm going to have part of it on audio. And this is where things just kind of got a little bit weirder. So, I don't know, I remember when I was reviewing the audio, and I almost forgot about this, what I'm about to share, until I was listening to it, and I just, all of a sudden, it's like flashback, I remember. And based on the time that I started the audio, and counting the hours into the audio, I think this took place around 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I can't remember exactly when. And I had shared this online, but with select people. So this is why I've chose these two particular examples, because I've already shared them. An event had taken place while I was sleeping, and this is going to sound crazy, and all I have is this audio, but there was how do I put it? I'm just trying to think of how to even explain this without sounding completely insane. I remember having a conversation while in I am assuming a sleep state, unless I was awake, and the audio recorder sort of picked up on it. Now, before anyone gets excited to listen to the audio, it's not like you can actually hear. I don't even, you have to really, I have to lead into this so you understand what you're listening to. So the audio is, had picked up this conversation, but the conversation, I had to slow the audio down like 99% or something like that to even hear, without understanding, the other side of the conversation. But you do hear me at one point replying. In that point, my replying, there was, I don't know if this ties into whatever was going on behind my vehicle prior to this, or how it's all tied in, if it's at all tied in. A lot of people talk about this, the Bigfoots or Sasquatch, Dogman, whatever, these cryptids doing this Mindspeak stuff, and I don't know if it's all tied in. Was it them talking to me, or was it the not so nice ones talking to me? But I was being asked, or being told, throughout this, and I remember the conversation, from my recollection, lasted like, I don't know, half an hour. It lasted a long time. It was, just going back and forth and everything else. And there's, this is where it's like, was I really asleep when all this was taking place? I don't know. I'm just really, I still don't know what was going on, because I remember visual things too, but all I have is the audio. And this one group was saying that they could help me. I just have to go with them. They can help me. And they sounded almost kind of like the nice ones, but something inside of me was just like, I wasn't going along with it. And then all of a sudden, the nice ones said no. They yelled no. Now, they were saying something beforehand, and when they, or an individual, I don't know if it's an individual, but they sound like, when they talk normal, like they talk in unison, like they think about 1,000 people talking in unison type of thing. But when they want to stress something to me, it's like one clear voice, and they yelled no, don't, like, not to go. And then you hear me replying no, and it kind of continued on from there a little bit, and that's what I caught. I understood what was being said to me by both sides there. But when you listen to the audio, you hear something, but you just can't put your finger on what's being said. I don't know. Anyway, I know it sounds crazy. I'm struggling trying to explain this because I don't understand. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it all. But when it comes to, as I said in a previous video, the nice ones, some people have called them, yes, those are angels or whatever. And then the not so nice ones would be, say, angels, demons, whatever you want to call them, from the other side. I don't know if it has anything to do with this possibly Bigfoot thing or whatever else. But that's what I auto-recorded. Now, I'm going to quickly finish off the rest of the weirdness that took place that basically drove me out of there early in the morning. And then I'll let you listen to the video, because then you can kind of get an idea of what may have happened. So I remember, now this whole conversation thing, whatever it was that happened, I found myself still asleep, because I ended up waking up to this loud thudding as a descriptive. I can't even describe it. I don't even know how to, like a whoo, like kind of, but it was like a thud more. I can't put it to words. And as it was happening, now I was dreaming, and that noise was, how you hear a lawnmower and you start dreaming a lawnmower, and then you wake up, it's like, oh, the neighbor's mowing their lawn. Well, it's kind of like that. Like, it was in my, for I don't know how long. And then I realized I'm hearing it because I can feel it in my ears. I can feel it throughout my body. And I sat up a bit, and then it happened again. And now I'm wide awake. And I had a little thermos cup of tea I hadn't even finished. And everything was vibrating. Every time it made that thud, whatever, everything inside of me, it was vibrating. The cup was vibrating on the dash. And I had this sensation of leave now, just go. Well, what did I do was I turned on my vehicle, and I thought, I'm just going to sit here. So I sat there, and I put on all my lights, but the thought, and by this time now, I had put down the window, threw out the, what a little bit of tea. I remember I might have drank it, but I put the window down a little bit. The thudding had stopped by now. And it wasn't a continuous thud. It was just kind of like, and there was no rhythm to it either. It just seemed to kind of happen randomly. And I had this feeling that it was coming from the passenger side more towards the rear. For some reason, that's just the feeling that I had. I mean, I don't know. And then that feeling of leave now, just, it was just that feeling of like something's not right. And that's when I said, okay, I'm out of here. And now it took me some time to get out of the trail. And I'm not moving fast, because you're not driving fast on these trails, even in the wintertime when the snow kind of levels things off more. But, you know, I was booting along as fast as I can, maybe 7-10K. And I get to the main trunk road. As I'm coming up, my lights are hitting something in the middle of this road. Not standing there or anything, so don't get excited. And it looked like from a distance, all I saw was like this shape, this blobby shape. I think, is that a small animal? What is that up there? Anyway, I get to that the T intersection on the main trunk road, and I looked out. I pulled up beside it, and it was the biggest pile of feces that I've seen. Still steaming. It was brownish in color, and it looked a lot like human feces. I've seen cow, I've seen all sorts of different animals. But it looked like it has a descriptive, logs and diarrhea kind of mixed in, right in the middle where I would be driving. And I just looked at that, and it's still steaming, like it was fresh. Something that was just literally there in front of me did their business, and nothing. I didn't see any wild horses. I didn't see anything around. And it didn't even look like horse poo. So I just, you know, okay, I don't know if I don't know if any of this is all tied in together, or it's just a series of weird events, but this is what happened. And as I started driving, I had a long drive just to get to the highway. And I started thinking, you know, about everything. And then when I started listening to the audio of that night, when I heard what I'm about to share, I remembered I was being offered help to go with them, and then the nice ones had said no. And I wasn't really planning on going during this whole thing. I wasn't, but yeah, again, in my life, the nice ones intervened, and they were even talking, I would say arguing, but not arguing like, you know, aggressively. They were just, anyway, I remember that. So this is another example of the only evidence that I have with regards to this particular event. No video, nothing spectacular. And so anyway, have a listen. So there you have it. Take what you will from it, accept it or don't. These two events, this is all I have regarding these two events. I have other examples, lifetime of stories, but this is what I have to show with these two examples. And it has to tie in with, well, the first one I wasn't even there, but ties in with dreaming, EVPs, like sleeping. And this other one, I was asleep, but I have some sort of evidence or residual evidence or something, just, and that's what reminded me about that whole conversation that lasted a long time. The fact that I had to speed it up as much as, or slow it down, sorry, as much as I did to even capture what I did. As something something, well, time is a tool to measure change, but it almost seems like there's a different, they're working at a different speed. And in fact, when you look at scripture, it does say for the Most High. If I'm not mistaken, in scripture it says 1,000 years to the Most High is one day to us, if I recall that correctly. So there's something to do, there's something going on with the passage of change measured with time. And this even ties in with abductions and all this other stuff, which I do share in a couple other videos, and I imply them in a few recent ones. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Sorry this is kind of long. You know, I'm very sorry that I'm struggling trying to share this, because I don't even, like, it's not really the easiest thing to share, especially knowing as I'm recording this I'm going to be sharing this online again. But it just I don't know, it's just not an easy thing to share, but it is what it is. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share.